She never believed in coincidences until the day a stranger spoke words only her forgotten childhood could have known. The city was busy that morning, but for Emma, the world felt slower than usual. She had woken with a heaviness in her chest, an ache she couldn't explain. She walked past the crowded cafe. A man's voice stopped her mid-step. "Emma, you used to sit under the old oak tree with a red notebook, didn't you?" Her heart skipped. She turned sharply. A man in his late 20s stood there, tall, with eyes that carried both warmth and sorrow. She had never seen him before, so she thought. But his words cut into her memory like a blade through silence. The red notebook. The oak tree. No one knew about that. Not even her closest friends. It was a piece of her past she had buried so deeply she thought it was lost forever. Emma's throat tightened. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling between fear and curiosity. The man smiled faintly, as if he had been waiting years for this moment. "Someone who remembers when you couldn't." He spoke her secrets like memories borrowed from her soul. Emma's pulse raced. The cafe's noise faded into a dull hum, the world shrinking to just her and the stranger who knew too much. She studied his face, desperate for recognition, but there was nothing. No memory, no flicker of familiarity. "How do you know about that notebook?" she demanded, her voice steadier than she felt. The man tilted his head, his gaze unwavering. "'Cause I was there, Emma. You were 9. It was summer. Wrote letters you never sent, pages full of dreams and fears you couldn't share with anyone. But I found them. I kept them safe." Emma's stomach turned cold. The details were too exact, too intimate to dismiss as coincidence. She remembered the smell of grass, the texture of the red notebook's cover. It's a secret hope that maybe, just maybe, someone out there would understand her words. Her hands trembled. "Shh. That notebook, it disappeared. I thought I lost it." The stranger's eyes softened. "You didn't lose it. You gave it to me, without knowing." Emma's breath caught in her chest. A storm of questions raged inside her. Who was he? Why had he kept this secret? And why reveal it now? But one question burned hotter than the rest. "Why are you here now?" she whispered. The man hesitated, as though choosing his next words could alter the course of fate itself. Then, in a voice low and certain, he said, "Because your past isn't finished, Emma, and neither am I. Trust is fragile, but when the past walks back into your life, it demands to be faced." Emma sat across from him in the corner of the cafe, her coffee untouched. The man who still hadn't told her his name watched her with calm patience, as if waiting for her to peel back the silence herself. Finally, she asked, "If you knew me then, if you really were there, why didn't you ever say anything?" A faint smile ghosted across his lips. "'Cause you didn't need me to speak. You needed me to listen." The word struck her like a memory, how she used to whisper her thoughts to the wind, writing things she couldn't say aloud. I had always longed for someone who would simply hear her without judgment. Could this man really have been that silent witness? "I don't even know your name," she murmured. His gaze held hers. "Daniel." The name stirred something faint and unfinished in her, like a half-forgotten melody. She tried to summon a memory, any memory, but her mind remained blank. "Daniel," she repeated softly, almost testing the sound. "You kept my notebook all these years? Why?" He leaned forward, his voice low. "Because it was never just paper, Emma. It was you, your fears, your laughter, your secrets. And I promised myself that if life ever gave me a chance, I'd return it to you when you were ready. Her chest tightened. Ready for what? Daniel's expression grew heavy, shadows flickering across his face. Ready to remember the part of your past you've been running from? Emma froze, her heartbeat thundering. She didn't know whether to push him away or lean in closer. The past has a way of whispering louder when you try hardest to forget it. Daniel reached into his satchel and carefully pulled out something wrapped in aged fabric. He placed it on the table between them, his fingers lingering as though the object carried more weight than its size could ever explain. Slowly, he unfolded the cloth. Emma's breath hitched. There it was, the red notebook. Its edges worn, its cover faded, but unmistakably hers. Her childhood secrets bound in paper, returned after all these years. Her hands hovered above it, trembling. She wanted to grab it, to hold it, but fear anchored her fingers in place. I can't believe you still have this, she whispered. Daniel's eyes softened. Open it. With hesitant fingers, she flipped through the pages. The handwriting was messy, childish, yet each word screamed with the raw honesty of a girl who felt unseen. She read fragments aloud, her dreams of escaping the city, her fear of being forgotten, her desperate wish for a friend who would understand her. Then she froze. A page she didn't remember writing stared back at her. The words were neater, older, not her own. Emma, if you're reading this someday, know that you were never alone. Someone saw you. Someone cared. Her chest tightened. She looked up at Daniel, confusion and wonder warring in her eyes. You wrote in it? Daniel nodded slowly. Not to change your story, only to leave a piece of mine. I was the boy in the house next door, the one who always watched you from afar. I didn't have the courage to speak, but when I found your notebook, it gave me the words I couldn't say out loud. Emma's throat burned with emotion. A stranger who wasn't a stranger at all. A ghost from her past, sitting right in front of her. Why now, Daniel? She whispered, her voice breaking. His eyes darkened, and his answer came like a riddle and a warning. Because the secret I've kept for years isn't just about your past. It's about your future. Sometimes the scariest secrets are not the ones buried in the past, but the ones waiting in the future. Emma's fingers tightened around the notebook, her pulse quickening. She searched Daniel's face for a hint, a crack, something that would explain the weight in his voice. My future, she whispered. How could you possibly know anything about that? Daniel leaned closer, his voice low, carrying the sharp edge of certainty. 'Cause Emma, what you've forgotten isn't just memories, it's promises. And one of them ties us together. Her chest tightened. She flipped frantically through the notebook, desperate for answers. Then, near the back, she found a folded page she didn't remember hiding there. She opened it with shaking hands. Scrawled across it, in a childish hand that was unmistakably hers, were the words, "Someday I'll find the one who already knows me." Her heart skipped. She didn't remember writing that. Daniel's voice broke the silence. "Shh. You wrote it after the night we met by the oak tree? You were crying, Emma. You told me you wished someone could see you without you having to speak. And I told you that one day I would." Her mind spun, memories flickering like broken film reels, fragments of a boy's voice, a shadow beside her, comfort in the dark. Tears pricked her eyes. Why can't I remember you? Daniel's jaw tightened, his gaze holding hers with an intensity that frightened and comforted her all at once. 'cause forgetting was the only way you could survive what came after. But Emma, the past is calling back, and if you don't face it now, it will destroy everything waiting for you. Her breath caught. For the first time, she felt the strange collision of fear and longing. A truth pressing against her chest. This stranger might be the key not only to her past, but to the life ahead of her. The night she forgot was the night that changed everything. Emma gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles white. "Tell me, Daniel, what happened? What am I not remembering?" His eyes darkened, his voice heavy with something that felt like both sorrow and guilt. "It was the summer you turned 10. It was the night of the storm." A shiver crawled up her spine. Storms always unsettled her, though she never understood why. "You ran to the oak tree," Daniel continued. "I was there too. You thought no one followed you, but I did. I found you crying, notebook in your lap, pages smeared with rain. You told me you wanted to disappear, that nobody would miss you." Emma's breath faltered, tears threatening to spill. The words sounded like hers, like the ache she had always carried. "I sat with you," Daniel said softly. "I told you I'd never let you be forgotten. You held my hand, Emma. You made me promise I'd always remember for the both of us, even if you forgot." Her pulse hammered. Bits of memory flickered cold rain, a boy's hand warm against hers, a voice whispering through the storm. "Then why don't I remember?" she demanded, her voice breaking. Daniel's jaw tightened, 'cause the accident happened that night. The lightning struck the oak. You blacked out before the promise was sealed in your memory. But I never forgot. I couldn't. Emma's throat burned, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. Pieces of her past were falling into place, but it was terrifying, overwhelming. "So all this time," she whispered, "you've been carrying a promise I don't even remember making." Daniel's eyes glistened. "Yes, and now Emma, it's time for you to decide if you want to keep it too. To face the truth, sometimes you must return to where it all began." Emma's breath came in shallow waves as Daniel's words echoed in her mind. The oak tree, the storm, forgotten promise. He stood from the table and extended his hand. "Come with me. Let me show you." Her instincts battled each other, fear whispered to run, but something deeper, something older urged her forward. With trembling fingers, she placed her hand in his. They walked in silence through winding streets until the city lights gave way to the quiet outskirts. The air grew cooler, fresher, carrying with it a strange familiarity, and then she saw it. The oak tree stood tall at the edge of an open field, its bark scarred, one great limb charred black from lightning, a monument of survival. Emma froze, her chest tightening as waves of unexplainable emotion crashed through her. Memories stirred at the edges of her mind, blurred but powerful. Daniel released her hand and stepped toward the tree. He placed his palm against the rough bark. "This is where you first trusted me, Emma, and where I swore I'd never let your story vanish." Her knees felt weak. She reached out, touching the scarred trunk. The moment her skin brushed the bark, images flashed, train pelting down, her tiny hands clutching a notebook, a boy's voice whispering, "I'll remember for you." Emma gasped, stumbling back, tears spilling freely. I remember pieces," she choked out. "Your voice, your hand in mine." Daniel's eyes shone with both relief and sorrow. "It's only the beginning. The rest will come. But you needed to return here to unlock it." She looked at him, her heart pounding in a rhythm that was both terrifying and comforting. This wasn't just a stranger. was someone tied to her life in a way deeper than time itself. But with every memory that returned, one question grew louder inside her. What else have I forgotten? The past had returned, but the future was waiting with a secret even more dangerous. Emma leaned against the oak, her hands trembling as if the memories had burned straight into her veins. Daniel didn't move closer, almost as though he was afraid one wrong step might break the fragile thread holding her together. I need to know, she whispered, her voice raw. Why you? Why were you the one to remember for me? Daniel's gaze darkened. Because Emma, I promised. But the promise wasn't mine. Alone it was yours too. Her chest tightened. Mine, he nodded. Slowly, carefully, he reached inside his coat and pulled out something small, wrapped in faded cloth. He placed it in her hands. Her fingers unwrapped it nervously, revealing an old silver locket, the surface scratched. But the initials engraved inside were unmistakable. EM and DH. Her knees weakened. She had never seen it before, and yet the sight of it tore through her like lightning. Tears blurred her vision as she opened it. Inside was a tiny, weathered photograph to children, drenched from the rain, clutching each other as though the storm around them couldn't touch what they shared. That's us, Daniel said softly. The day we made the promise. Emma shook her head, breathless. But how could I forget this? Forget you? His jaw tightened. Because forgetting was the only way to keep you safe. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Safe? From what? Daniel stepped closer now, his voice low but urgent. Emma, the secret isn't in the past. It's in what's coming. You carry something inside. You something that others would do anything to control. That's why I remembered for you, because one day, you'd need me to remind you who you really are. Her heart nearly stopped. The weight of his words sank into her like an anchor, dragging her deeper into waters she couldn't tease the bottom of. And for the first time, Emma realized the truth wasn't just about love or memory, it was about survival. Sometimes the greatest secret, ISNT, what you forgot, S, what you were never meant to know. Emma's fingers tightened around the locket, her breath shallow as Daniel's words circled her like ghosts. Something inside me, something they'd want to control. Her voice broke the silence, fragile but steady. What are you saying, Daniel? What do I have that they want? Daniel's jaw clenched, his eyes flicking around as if shadows themselves might be listening. Then he leaned in, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma, the accident that took your parents, it wasn't an accident. They were protecting something. Protecting you. Her stomach dropped, the ground beneath her feeling suddenly unstable. Protecting me from what? Daniel hesitated, his hand brushing against hers like he needed her strength to continue. From the truth. You weren't just an ordinary child. You were chosen. Your memories hold fragments of information, pieces your parents hid inside you. Codes, research, knowledge, they couldn't let fall into the wrong hands. That's why you forgot your mind locked them away. And that's why I remembered. Because if they ever came for you, I'd be the one to guide you back. Emma's world spun, disbelief crashing against the undeniable feeling that his words were real. You're telling me I've been carrying this secret my whole life, now that my own memories are the key? Yes, Daniel said, his eyes fierce. And now that you've started remembering, they'll come. The people who wanted your family silenced, they'll know you're waking up. Emma staggered back, clutching the locket to her chest as her heart thundered. She wasn't just a woman searching for lost memories. She was the keeper of a legacy and a target. But as terror spread through her veins, another emotion rose to meet it, something stronger. Resolve. She lifted her chin, her voice steady despite the storm inside. Then we don't run. If they're coming for me, we make sure I'm ready. Daniel's lips curved into the faintest, proudest smile. That's the Emma I remembered. Love brought them together, memory bound them, but the secret would decide if they lived or vanished forever. The night was restless. The oak tree loomed above Emma and Daniel as though it too held its breath. Every shadow whispered danger. Every gust of wind felt like a warning. Emma stood firm, locket in her hand, her pulse wild. If my memories hold the key, then we unlock them. No more running, no more hiding. Daniel's eyes flickered with worry and pride. He took her hand, pressing it against his chest. Whatever happens, you won't face it alone. That's my promise. Always has been. A sudden rustle broke the silence, figures moving in the dark, voices sharp and calculated. They had come. Emma's heart raced, but something inside her shifted. Instead of fear, clarity surged through her veins. Images flashed her parents' faces, hurried words, codes whispered into lullabies, a map sketched into the margin of a bedtime story. The memories unlocked like a floodgate. She gasped, clutching her head as the weight of it poured into her. I see it now. The location, the files, everything they wanted hidden inside me. The men closed in, shadows with eyes full of hunger. But Emma lifted her gaze, no longer the lost woman she once was. She was fire now, memory reborn. Daniel stepped beside her, his voice like steel. We'll have to go through both of us. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. The oak tree groaned under the wind, history watching as the promise they made as children finally met its test. Emma took Daniel's hand, her voice strong. We're not just keeping a secret, we're protecting a future. The strangers moved closer, but something about Emma's stance made them hesitate. She wasn't prey anymore. She was the storm. And as the night swallowed them in its silence, one truth burned brighter than all the danger around them. Two strangers once bound by a forgotten promise were no longer strangers at all. They were destiny, love, and memory woven into one unbreakable force. The locket gleamed between them, its weight no longer a mystery, but a vow. Whatever the future held, they would face it together. Because love written before they met, it's finally been remembered.